This story is based on the true and famously unsolved maritime mystery of the ghost ship, the Mary Celeste, discovered adrift and deserted in the Atlantic Ocean in 1872. The silent voyage, the Atlantic, was a placid giant on the morning of December 5th, 1872. Gentle wind filled the sails of the Dei Gratia, pushing her steadily towards the Strait of Gibraltar. Captain David Morehouse stood on the deck, scanning the horizon with his spyglass. It was then that he saw it another brigantine, about 6 miles distant, sailing erratically. "She moves like a drunkard, first mate," Oliver Deveau remarked, joining his captain, "and her sails are in a poor state." Strange. As they drew closer, an unnerving silence seemed to radiate from the vessel. They hailed her, their calls echoing across the water, but received no answer. There was no one at the helm, no one on the deck. The ship's name was visible on her stern, Mary Celeste. Captain Morehouse felt a chill that had nothing to do with the sea breeze. He knew that ship. She had left New York 8 days before his own vessel. She should have already been in Genoa. "Lower a boat," Morehouse commanded, his voice tight. "Deveau, you're with me. Something is terribly wrong." The moment they stepped onto the deck of the Mary Celeste, the silence was absolute, broken only by the creak of the mast and the groan of wood. The ship was in good condition, perfectly seaworthy. Her cargo of 1,701 barrels of denatured alcohol was untouched in the hold. They descended into the ship's interior. In Tegale, they found ample provisions enough for 6 months. There were no signs of a struggle or violence. In the crew's quarters, chests were neatly packed, and personal belongings lay undisturbed. Money, tobacco pipes, and rain gear were all in their places. Why would a crew abandon a ship and leave all their valuables behind? The most haunting discoveries were in the captain's cabin. The captain's logbook lay open on a desk. The last entry, dated November 25th, recorded the ship's position just off the Azores. It mentioned no distress, no storm, no trouble of any kind. The final words were simply a routine morning entry. On a small table, a sewing machine stood with a piece of a child's clothing still under the needle, as if the captain's wife had just stood up for a moment. A child's toys were scattered on a bunk. They were a family on this ship. Captain Benjamin Briggs, his wife Sarah, and their 2-year-old daughter, Sophia. Along with them, a crew of 7 experienced seamen, 10 souls in total. All gone. Deveau checked the ship's equipment. The ship's chronometer, sextant, and navigation papers were missing. And, most importantly, the ship's single lifeboat was gone. "They left," Deveau whispered, stating the impossible. "They left in a hurry." But why? The ship was not sinking. There was no sign of fire or a pirate attack. The cargo was not valuable to pirates. The weather had been calm. Why would a skilled captain like Briggs order his wife, child, and entire crew into a small lifeboat in the middle of the vast Atlantic, abandoning a perfectly sound vessel? Captain Morehouse stood at the deserted helm, looking out at the endless expanse of water. The Mary Celeste sailed on, a ghost ship, carrying a terrible secret. Did a sudden storm appear and vanish just as quickly? Was there a mutiny? Did fumes from the alcohol cargo cause a panic, making them fear an imminent explosion that never came? Or was it something else? Something unimaginable that the ocean had witnessed and would never reveal. The 10 people who had been on the Mary Celeste were never seen or heard from again. They vanished into the silence of the sea, leaving behind a perfectly good ship to sail on without them, forever carrying the echo of their unanswered mystery.